Hello everyone, how's everybody doing? Thanks for coming and hanging out on this Friday night. I feel like I'm falling apart a little. How you guys all doing? Thomas is here, Ironweeds is here, Thomas Melkerson also is here, two Thomases. Matthew Jones, Alps Media, Music to Motion's here. There's a bunch of Michaels here tonight. And then way early was Nerd and URD, but that's fine. That was from a while ago. So how's everybody doing? Thanks for coming and hanging out. I think this one's going to be really informative for everybody out there. I was thinking, it took me a while to come up with what we were going to talk about this week. But I feel like tonight's subject, mid-range, is really important. What's going on, Alps, Ironweeds? John, what's going on, John? So this is, I'll tell you now that this isn't an original idea. I was actually inspired by another YouTube channel, and if you guys haven't checked this one out, you definitely should. Colt Caparoon has a really good channel out there, and not too long ago, he put out a video, and it was probably 15 minutes long or so, going over mid-range. Mid-range is exactly what you think. It's not the lows of your EQ, and it's not the highs. It's really just everything in the middle. And this is where the human ear is most perceptive of things. It's where we pick up on things like at our instinct level. It's like, that's where danger is. It's in the mid-range. So that's why our ears are so like fine-tuned in this area. I watched the one you say by Colt. Yeah, Colt, he did a great video. What's up, Chappie? What's going on, Steve K? So, instinctively, because when we were, eons and eons ago, when we were just hunter-gatherers and wilderness was around us and not cities and stuff like that, you had to learn to listen to the predators that were out there to make sure that you were not the food and that you weren't creating the sounds that your food that you were trying to hunt would also get triggered by. So evolution has made our ears very sensitive to the mid-range. Fast forwarding to today and music, this is where all of your notes live. Not all of your notes, but like all of the important notes, I guess we'll say. This is where your vocals live for your songs or for your voiceovers. It's all in the mid-range. There's lows and there's highs, but all of the intelligibility of what you're saying in your voiceover or your singing or anything, that's all in the mid-range. Even some of the harmonics of these notes is in the mid-range as well. So yes, it's nice to have your airy top end and your crisp shimmer that's up there. And it's good to have like the nice low rumble and beef to your voice as well. But really, everything comes down to what's going on here. And even when I do that to make like just a really filtered kind of sound with my hands, you can still understand what I'm saying. It's maybe a little muffled, just because of the way I'm doing it, and I hope I'm pointing at the mic the right way. But you can understand it, and that's mid-range. That's what we're going to go over today. And it's easier than you think to be able to do inside your DAW. And we're going to get into that in a second. Depending on your setup at home. Now, my setup is a little interesting here. I have two different sets of monitors. I have my Kali Audio LP8s as my mains. They're 8-inch speakers. And then I also have a pair of Yamaha NS10s. And if you have NS10s or even the Yamaha H series, HS series, or you have the mix cubes that are out there, or the Aventone 5Cs, any of those really small boxy looking speakers, a boombox or something, a Bluetooth speaker, that's all mid-range, and they're really great for dialing in what's in this area so you can separate things out. You'd be surprised what you could do with not a lot of like frequency range and some EQ moves. You can really clear up your mid-range. Brian Wallace is here. In a short sense, master in a frowny face and let the consumer turn it into a smiley face? You could, but you'll see I have a mix here. And we're going to get into it, but I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to do. And let's concentrate on the mid-range, and then you'll be surprised. So if you're just tuning in or you're fast forwarding on the replay, things are going to sound weird for a little while, and I'm going to show you why. But we're literally going to filter our sounds. We're going to take the top end and the low end, and we're just going to cut them out. And we're just going to listen to the mid-range. And then you can do this at home too, in your studio or on your speakers, your headphones, whatever it is. Just take a low pass and a high pass, whoosh, get yourself the mid-range, and listen to what's going on in there. And look at your entire mix from just this area. So let's go ahead and go into our DAW and take a look at exactly what we're doing. So you guys may remember this song. We were working on this a few times, just messing around, doing like all of our plugins, the different consoles. It's the same song. Nova One Studio 4-gram. It's available on the Cambridge site as well. If you guys are looking to do anything with this song yourself, Cambridge Multitracks, it's available to you. I can see the cameras, like the colors are changing, but whatever. It's really throwing me off. What's going on, Smash Studios? DJ Big Red's here. So let's start with our bass line, and not like the bass line. What we're going to do is I'm going to hit play, and we're going to listen to just full range balance. And that's all this is. It's fader and pans. There's nothing else going on except on my lead vocals. The only thing that's going on is the lead vocals. I was messing around with some stuff, and I think it sounded good. It brought it nice and forward. So don't worry about this stuff. And literally these two are exact duplicates, okay? We're not even going to worry about those right now. There is some mix bus compression going on. Again, don't even worry about it. And then there's some sample triggering going on my kick and my snare because they needed to pop out more. What was in these multi-tracks didn't work for me. So as a bass line, and we're not even going to play a lot of it, here's where it is without affecting anything.
I feel crazy.
Stop it there because at this point in the multi-tracks, the drummer gets way off, and we're not even going to mess with that right now. So we're going to mess with this kind of like pre-chorus and chorus thing. We're not going to mess with the post-chorus. And really what we're going to do on my mix bus, and you guys already know this, you can see it underneath my head kind of over here. There's a plugin. Boop, here it is. Pro EQ. You kind of can't see it. It's underneath my face. So let's just open it up. This is what we're doing today, and I'm going to turn it on so you can see what's going on. It's not going to affect my voice, it's just going to affect the mix, because it's on my mix bus. On the low end, I am doing a low cut and not one of the linear low cuts. I don't care about that. I just want a low cut, and I'm going all the way up to 400 hertz. And on the high end, I'm doing a high cut, the same 12 dB per octave, all the way down to 6K. This is the area that I want to concentrate on. This is the area where all of the important notes are. This is the area where the intelligibility is for everything. So now let's listen to this mix. And things are going to get a little weird today because we're going to be listening to this a lot, but we are going to go in and out so you can hear what we're listening to and how even just a few small changes can really open things up. So you heard the full mix. Here's the filtered mix. So this is just mid-range, but in here, you can hear all the different parts of the song. Even the kick drum, the bass guitar, the snare drum, all this stuff that's kind of like low and low-ish. You can hear all of that. You can hear all the highs, the cymbals and the crashes, the kind of the plucky percussiveness of the acoustic guitar. You can still hear all of this in the mid-range. Obviously, your vocal is there as well. So this is a very interesting way to approach your mix. And this is where all of the important things are. And this is why studios and engineers and all kinds of audio professionals will get something like those mix cubes, the Avitone 5Cs or C5s, I can't remember, Yamaha NS10s. They're very mid-rangey. If you can concentrate and really clean up the mid-range, then your mix is going to sound that much better. It's going to have such clarity, space for everything. And we're not even concentrating on the lows or the highs right now. And you can really dial things in. So with this on, and we're going to leave it on. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shrink it down and put it underneath my head, kind of over here-ish. Still on screen, but over here. We can go in at really kind of like a top level and make room for things. And I'm literally just going to be doing things from a bus level. And that's where we're going to start finding room for all of these things. The only place where I might not do something at a bus level is the drums. Just the way I can be like, okay, I need to scoop some of this out of a snare, maybe add a little bit of the kick drum. But for my guitar bus, my acoustic bus, my lead vocals, my background vocals, I'm going to be concentrating on those buses. Ironweeds goes, I enjoy utilizing the Cambridge site from Mike Sr. Yeah. What was the name of this song or band? It's Nova One Studio. It's all the way up here on top. I'll zoom in on it for you. Nova One. If you just go to the website and do either Control F or Command F to find on the page and start typing Nova One, it'll pop right up. And I believe the band is called 4 Gram. So that's the one if you want to mess with this one yourself. And if you really want to practice editing, the drums in this really need it bad. So maybe that's a video we can make, like a produced video on how to edit drums. Oh, excuse me. Let's see. I saw Ziggy's here. What's going on, Ziggy? Might be my ears, but the mid-range frequencies of the crashes and cymbals seem to stand out and interfere with the vocal. Is that just me? But that's exactly what we're talking about, is within this mid-range, you can hear where things are clashing, and now you can start addressing. Just like you're saying, maybe those cymbals are interfering with the vocals. All right, well, let's address it. Let's do some really simple things. And the most basic thing you can do is check where your volumes are. So maybe we just need to bump the vocals up. Maybe we need to bring the crash cymbals and the overheads down. Let's start with that. And then we can go into just some really clean EQs just to scoop things out of the way. And right now, going by what Music to Motion said, the cymbals are in the way of the vocals. Brian Wallace says, vote yes for editing video. Yeah, I think it's just about time we did an editing video, and this song might be perfect for it. This song is really good for you guys to practice your editing too. Okay, so let's do just that. Let's say I'm going to take the room out, and I'm going to take my overheads out. And I do want to, let me see if I can put this up for you guys. Whoop. Oh, is it not working? Why are you not connecting? Oh, you're not connecting. All right, well, it was fader cam, but you guys don't need fader cam. Let's see. Where's my mouse? Here it is. Beep, beep, boop, boop. There you are. All right, so here's my overheads, and what we're going to do at a very basic level, the vocals are all still in. We've just taken our overheads out, and we've taken our room out. Let's use volume to find a better balance of the cymbals versus the vocals.
I feel
Okay, that's not bad. I'm going to mute that one real quick, and I'm going to bring the room mics in. I thought you were quiet, Watch. You need to be quiet. So let's do the same thing, room mics. I don't want that. Come on.
I feel crazy. I'm losing. Voices calling. Don't show it in your head.
Okay, so that's probably a better volume balance in the mid-range. It might not be bad, but I think I agree that there's definitely something going on. So let's address those room mics, and we're just going to use stock plugins today. And let's find where that clash is, and we're just going to do the sweep hunt. We're going to do that right now, and we know we're only going to be between 400 and 6K. That's where we're searching for right now. Obviously, we can go real crazy, and I'm just gonna make this a little tighter. We can go down here. You will hear some of that, but most of it's gonna get cut off. So we're gonna go back to the mid-range. We'll find, what we're gonna do is we're gonna push the room signal so that it kind of covers up the vocal too much. And once it does that, then we'll pull it back and actually scoop some of those overheads out so that the vocals can come forward a little. And you'll be surprised. Small amounts will do a great job here.
I feel crazy. I'm losing.
So right about here, where are we at? We're at just under 600 hertz. It's a little boxy sounding for me in the room, and it's almost where his vocal is. Listen to it again.
I feel crazy. I'm losing. Voices calling.
I'm just going to change the level here on the EQ so you can see that these are small moves. I'm only 6 dB on the range of the Pro EQ. So this is actually just under 3 dB of a dip at 576 hertz. And I'm just going to widen it out just a little bit more, just to scoop a little bit extra. But let's listen to this.
I feel crazy. I'm losing. Voices calling.
Okay, that's not bad. I think I want to do the exact same thing. Honestly, I'm just going to copy it over. I really think that this mid-range, this about 500 hertz right here, and just a little cut might be the same exact thing in our overheads that's clashing with our vocals.
I feel crazy. I'm losing. Voices calling.
It's actually a little lower on this one. It's about 422 hertz. I bumped it up 5 dB just to make it poke forward so that it was like a little invasive, I guess we'll say. Same cue, and now we're just gonna pull a little bit of it out. I just did command click on here, and I'm realizing now I don't have my keyboard shortcuts on, but I'm not actually doing a lot. I'm typing in Pro EQ most of the time. So we're gonna leave this where it is, and we're just gonna scoop some of this out.
I feel crazy. I'm losing. Voices calling. Don't show it in your head. They don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, boy.
Not bad, right? And we can go in and we can confirm. There's a good reason why I left this Pro EQ open, is because we can do sweeps in here to see like what's in an area and which we should attack and address and fix. So let's do the same kind of thing. Let's listen to those cymbals and the lead vocals. It's about here where we're into the chorus. I think that's really where it is. So we're very telephony here with our vocals. And I don't want to bump this. I just want to use it as a reference. So I'm going to put it right back to 0. And you have to listen to everything else that's going on. That's really important in the mid-range, is if you make a change here, how does it sound for everything else? How, if I push, at about just under 900 hertz, if I'm pushing up, what am I affecting? Clearly in this one, we've gotten the vocals, we've gotten the guitars and the acoustic guitars, so maybe we have to scoop a little bit of those out as well. Or we can go ahead and shift where the vocals are in this mid-range, maybe push them up a little closer to like 1.5-ish or so, or... I see you, Brian Wallace, I'll get to that in a second. Or we can shift and scoop some of the guitars out of this area to let those vocals sit in nicely. So what do we got here? I think this is a good example of listening to how your move affects everything else instead of what you're changing, because I heard the changes in the vocals more than the drums. Exactly. That is exactly what we're concentrating on here. We're affecting something else, but we're working on one thing, but we're listening to everything else and how the moves over here will affect all the stuff we're trying to go for. Same page, yeah. What's up, Billy? Thanks for coming in and hanging out. So I'm going to put this back to 0. Let's do some more sweeping in our main mix and see where things are kind of like clashing. Billy, I think you just got here, and some of the other guys might have just gotten here. Yes, things sound weird. What we have and everything that's underneath my head here, this is what we're listening to, and we're only listening to 400 hertz all the way up to 6K. Everything above and below that, we're just cutting out. We want to concentrate on the mid-range and see what's in here to clean things up. And that's what we're about to do. We're about to do another sweep. And we're just going to we're going to go a little tight on the mid Q here. It's going to look like that. That's probably a little too tight, so we'll widen it out. And let's just sweep around and find issues in the mid-range here. See where things are clashing, where stuff is getting in the way. That's just like harmonics of stuff, like the cymbals are a little washy up here, but this is your typical, just under 3K, 2.7. That stuff kind of lives there. Maybe clean it up a little. We'll come back and address it. You can hunt these ugly frequencies forever. I'm not too worried about them right now. I want the intelligible stuff, so we're actually just going to shift down to the lower area. Okay, so this is where our vocals are living, right here, right about 660 hertz. This is the beef of those vocals are right here. So let's listen to everything that is also getting boosted here. The vocals clearly are a little boxy sounding here, but they're coming really forward. This is where they're living. Let's listen to the other stuff going on. Darren, great video. This is something I've never done before. This is an awesome exercise to do. If you have a slow day or you have nothing going on, do this. Concentrate on the mid-range, and then your mixes will get really, really clean. And we're going to do an experiment later. We're going to remember all of the EQ moves that we did, and we'll listen to them before and after in our filtered, and then before and after in the full mix. That's when things are going to get really cool. This will also step up your mixes to be more pro, because, yes, getting your low end concentrated, getting your low end situated is what I was trying to say, but then a really clear, present, not scooped, but defined mid-range. So here's our vocals. I'm going to hit play again. Don't listen to the vocals now. Listen to what else is in here. And then we don't have to try and boost this in the vocals. We can scoop some stuff out of the other things to let the vocals just sit here. So it's a kind of a short bit. I'm hearing a little bit of the boxiness of the snare. So I want to push some of that snare out of the way. I'm hearing a little bit of that lead guitar in here, so I can do a little bit of scoop in that lead guitar. And I think some of the other guitars are kind of living in here, but we're also getting in the range of where the bass wants to live, where you want to hear the mid-range of the bass guitar. So let's address those things one at a time. One is the snare drum. As a reminder, here's what we're listening to. This is the area we're adjusting. I hear, yes, right now we're boosting it, so you hear lots of that right now. That's fine. I hear the acoustics in here, and I kind of want to scoop a little bit of that out, and I want to take care of the snare drum. Here's everything back to normal, and it's going to sound better, but... First thing I want to do, at a bus level, I want to go into my acoustic guitars, stock EQ. What do we say? Where's our number? 650. That's our money spot. We can even just go ahead and punch this one right in. 650. Dialed it right in. Let's scoop them out a little, and even pretty sure my voice will still go if I hit solo. Yes, okay, you guys can still hear me. So let's listen to our acoustic guitars, and we'll boost this frequency in the acoustics, and then we'll get it out of the way. We're gonna change the scale to 6 dB again. Yes, it looks huge. Don't worry about that. So it's a little bit of a resonance. It is kind of a nosy mid-range here. I'm going to put it back to 0, get us out of solo, which we're out of solo now. And now let's start scooping some of this out in the context of the mix. Okay, again, let's do a minor fix over here on the bus. And I just want to pull the volume down a little. Okay, that helps. It rebalanced our volume. It scoops just a little. Where are we at? 2.5 dB cut on our acoustic guitar bus, right? I sound a little bit like the penguin there. What were some other things? Snare drum. We want to do the same thing. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to steal that exact same EQ, and because that's where we're addressing it. I'm just going to go here. And let's do the same exact thing. Snare drum. Okay. I think that's pretty good. What are you guys thinking? Also very telling to listen to your references through this filter too. Yes, you'll be surprised at like all the clarity you'll hear in your reference mixes if you just throw a high and low pass filter on. What's going on, Chris? Chris's hike. How was your hike? So let's do a quick A/B. You know what I'm going to do real quick just to make things kind of easy for me? I want all of these EQs to be in the same spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just dragging them over. Because like if you try and group things like this and then bypass your plugin, It's kind of weird. So right now, because I put mix tool in and I've done nothing else, I just put it in so that there's a blank, I use it as a blank insert. Now when I bypass my EQs, they're all in the same position. If I tried to do it when the EQs were on these other channels, it would bypass my trigger plugin for the samples that I'm using. So here's all of the cleanup that we've done. I'm going to take this. Oh, you. Come on. There we go. Single click. All right. That's interesting. Come on. All right. I'm going to take everything out. All of our EQs that we've done so far, which is not a lot. They're all in bypass. Let's listen. And a couple measures in, I'm going to click it back in. A little bit cleaner. We're making small moves, but all of these small moves in different areas are going to add up and they're going to make room for other things. Do a Disney voice. I don't want to have to go into legality about it. That's for you, Chris. I don't know why. I'm agreeing with all that you're doing. Good to know, Music to Motion. John Carr Flores, watching from Nicaragua. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Matthew. So yeah, we haven't done a lot. We've done fader moves and we've done a little bit of EQ. Let's find some other stuff. Let's hunt around in our main mix again, find some problems. Here's a little bit of the nose of the vocal is in this area, 1.7, but I kind of want to take that out and shift that to almost like a 2K for the vocal, and I want the guitars to kind of poke through here. I want a little bit of that telephony guitar to come through. And if we shift the vocals up closer to 2K, they'll have a little bit of that telephony presence for us. So let's do exactly that. Our lead vocal bus. I'm just going to grab an EQ and I'm going to pull down a little bit at about 1K. So you can see we're just about at 1K, and I'm just going to tighten it up. I'm going to pull down, not a lot. Right now it says about 6 dB, but I'm guessing right now. We haven't heard it. So this is going to kind of shift things to make it sound a little more telephony and in this area. And I'm just going to leave that EQ in that area. Then we're going to go to our guitars. And we're going to do the same kind of thing, except in the opposite. That's not what I wanted to do. Pro EQ. That I want to do the same kind of thing, but opposite. So I'm going to pull a little bit of 2K out and tighten it up. I guess I should have done this too. And put mix tool above that, and put mix tool above that. Again, mix tool is just a placeholder. I'm not doing anything with it. And let's make sure we take that out because we don't want the main EQ on our main to get in the way. So right now we're listening to, and we just kind of eyeballed things. We're going to listen to our lead vocal and our guitar to make them a little bit telephony, but in different areas. I'm going to put them in the bypass, and then we'll kick them in and see if we kind of got it right. I think it cleaned it up very nicely. Again, now what I want to do is I want to find a place for the bass guitar to sit. I kind of want to bring that forward. This way, when you're on small speakers, and that's what we're simulating here, you can hear the bass, you can hear the notes. So I am going to do a little bit of hunting on just the bass right now. Let's pull this Pro EQ over because it doesn't matter, and we'll just center that guy out. We're going to use this guy. and we're going to hunt around for something that's going to sound nice for our bass guitar. Okay, so we're getting a little bit of it here. It's kind of too low for me because we're at 237 hertz. This is a little too low. I do want to find more of like that mid-range. And you can see on the graph here, this bass is kind of rolled off. I might have to do something else to actually bring some of that mid-range forward. But let's hunt around again. Let's kind of solo this out real quick. Don't worry about this. This isn't bypass. Actually, it's not in bypass, but that's okay. Don't worry about that. You saw nothing. Come on, Pro EQ. Okay, so here's where we're hearing some of the notes. It's about 750, right? We'll balance that out. Take it out of solo. Let's grab our EQ here and find 750, which is about here-ish. And let's listen to the other stuff that's in this range of 750. Here's our bass EQ, but here's our main. We're just pushing 750. We're going to listen to what's here to carve a little bit of space for the bass guitar. Lots of guitar, lots of vocal. We may have some difficulty, so what we can do is let's check our guitars. This one. Let's go ahead in, and we'll just try. We'll pull some of the guitars out of the general area. Kind of there-ish. Let's send her to that one back up. Okay, that cleaned it up a little. It also made a little bit more room for the vocals. Tim, is the sound we are listening to as good as you are listening to? It's very filtered. It should be very filtered. That's exactly what we're doing. You guys want to hear where we're at in the full mix? Ready? So you guys are listening to it like this. This is what we're concentrating on. As soon as you open up all of the frequencies, everything becomes really clear. They all have their spot. You hear the low end of the kick and the bass guitar. You hear room for the guitars and the vocals. You hear the top end shimmer of the vocals and the guitars and the cymbals. We're cleaning up the mid-range. This is where we're concentrating now, because those vocals, as soon as we came out, they were right in front. Listen to it again. I'm going to put the filters back in and open it up again. So, John, yes, it is weird sounding. And I don't know exactly when you showed up, John. It's very filtered, but we're concentrating on the mid-range, and that's why this exercise of everything that's underneath my head right now, everything that's underneath the camera, it's just a 400 to 6K filter. All we're listening to is the mid-range. Brian, if you were doing this in a context of a real mix, would you be flipping back and forth or focus on this until you've done all you can and then move on to the lows and highs? I would kind of be going in and out and jumping all around. Once I have like a good place where like my low end is pretty consistent and where I need it to be, I might do something like this, or just, and not even like the top end, is just roll off the lows and concentrate on the mids and the highs from there. Just, but kind of going in and out, because you do need to listen to it in the context of everything else that's going on. That's why, thanks to John, we did that. We opened up the mix and we turned the lows and the highs back on and listened to the clarity that we had. Matthew Jones, don't let me derail you. Okay, I won't. Let's keep. No, I'm kidding. But if this becomes relevant, I do this, but with the high pass filter at 160, low mids, consumer playback systems, and so on. Should I bump your high pass filter? So I would say so. So let's do exactly that. We know where our settings are. Let's change yours. Do you, Matthew? Do you do the top end as well, or do you just roll off your lows so that you're not hearing like the super rumbles? So one thing that I listen to is when we put this in the bypasses, I want to make sure that it's not too muddy, and that's something that I would just listen to between the guitars and the bass. In that 250-ish to 350-ish kind of range. Like I would clean that stuff up, and we can leave the Pro EQ on our master over here to kind of accentuate that and see like, oh, is stuff bad? Let's scoop it out. So let's do exactly that. Matthew, you have to tell me if you do the high end as well, but let's listen to things if you filter out from 160. Actually, we'll do it like as it's playing so we can listen to the very similar kind of thing. Yes, to low pass filter. Actually, at the same spot you have it. Okay, so we'll do the same exact thing that Matthew does. Right now, I put it back to 400, and we'll listen to it, and then we'll open it up to 160. So things got really weird there, because what I did is I took my high cut filter or my low pass filter, same thing, and I brought that down to 400. So now we're just listening to between 160 and 400. And you can hear there's information in here, but it's kind of just muck and it's really low mids. It is important to listen to these things and make sure that there's not too much of it, but this is where a lot of the fundamentals of like the guitars, and you could hear there's some vocals in here too. You don't want to do too much here. I'd rather do stuff in the kind of upper mid-range, or mid-range to upper mid-range, to kind of clear all of that space. So let's put this back to 6K. And I'm going to put this back to 400. You don't have to do 400. This 400 is our example here. You could do 300, something like that. Depending on, what's up to you, is maybe it is worth it for you to go down there. Maybe you're working on like heavier metal kind of stuff. Like this is like kind of a pop rock kind of song, so I want to concentrate up more. But if you're doing something like kind of heavier, maybe some EDM, maybe some hip hop stuff, maybe you want to open it down a little bit further. 80 hertz, 250, 4K, and sometimes a few others are common to scoop out in live venues. Yeah, but really when you're talking about scooping stuff in live venues, you have to listen to the room. That's why references are great, because I don't always scoop out 80 hertz in a room. Maybe there's not enough, or that's where my kick drum needs to live, and so I kind of bump that up. And Secret, good evening. Thanks so much for your help the other day with the comments on the 1818 and the ADAT guidance. You're the bee's knees. No, Secret, you're the bee's knees for considering, commenting on the video and asking the right questions and being very receptive to the feedback that was given to you. Real quick recap of that is he's got an Apollo, a USB Apollo Twin, very similar to mine. And he's got an 1818 that he was trying to feed into it to have extra inputs. But he wanted the Apollo to be the master clock. Unfortunately, on the Apollos, it only has an ADAT in, and clock goes on the ADAT out. It is only unidirectional. So Secret was comparing it to things like networking, where there has to be that connection between both units, where in the world of audio, it's like, it's one way, out of one thing to the other thing. It's, they're not getting into like audio over IP or anything like that. But really, if you're just thinking like hard copper, cables and stuff, out of one thing into another, out of one thing into another. So that's what we were talking about. And that's what he's referencing now. Matthew, you're too kind for coming in and hanging out. Are you going to pop into the Midnight Bar tonight? I'll post a link shortly. Go ahead and pop the link to the Midnight Bar. The Midnight Bar is a Zoom meetup that Music to Motion and a bunch of other guys have started to do. It's Friday night after this show. They just get together and hang and talk, maybe talk shop, maybe talk, just whatever kind of stuff. So he's going to pop a link into the chat in a little bit if anybody's curious about doing that or curious of joining. It's a open invitation, so go ahead and go hang out. Where were we? We wanted to find a good spot for our bass guitar. So let's find our EQ for our bass guitar and clean up some spots here. And then we'll do our A-B stuff again in a little bit. There's a little bit in 500, but if we put this back down to here and we compare it on the mix, I want to see what's in that 500 area, and maybe we could just scoop room out. Again, I'd rather just cut some of this stuff out of the mid-range than trying to boost it up a little. A little bit of vocal in here. Bass guitar is definitely in there. I don't want to pull too much of the vocal out because it's so intelligent in this area. So let's try our guitars as well. I'll come back in, and this time I do want to make it real tight. I just want to do a little bit around 500. Let's go directly on 500. I think that cleared up a little bit of room. Let's do a quick before and after. I just want to double check. Okay, so we're just going to bypass our EQs for our mid-range. And we have it on the vocal, our acoustic guitars, which actually, I wonder, there might be a little bit of too much acoustic guitar in that same 500 area. We've already scooped it because we did 600, but maybe do a very similar kind of thing. Let's take a listen real quick. I'm just going to boost it to hear it and see if it's going to interfere with our bass. Around 500 was our spot. Nah, this wasn't really doing anything to clash with the bass. So now let's do an A-B of all of the EQs we've done so far. As a recap, we've done stuff on our overheads in our drum room. We've done it on our bass, our guitars, our acoustic guitars, and our lead vocals, which actually, I'm going to copy things over to our background vocals and do the same exact kind of little scoops, except on our background vocals, I'm going to scoop it a little harder. Because this is a bus. We're doing everything on the buses. The only channels I've gone to are my mono drum room, my stereo overheads, and my snare drum. So let's do a quick A, B, U. EQ's off, a couple measures in, we'll turn them back on, and listen to the mid-range and how it cleans up and everything has its own spot. So bypassed first. made some room for everything, cleaned up this mid-range, put little movements here and there, getting stuff out of the way. If you really want to hear it, let's put it in the bypass, and we'll put this on our mix bus into bypass as well. Let's see. I'm going to catch up with you guys real quick before we do the full mix as well. Blaze since 83. Thoughts on Vital, the free synth. I haven't messed around with it, so I don't have thoughts on it, but I will mess around with it and kind of get back to you. There's the link from Music to Motion for the Midnight Bar, so if you guys want to hang out afterwards, go ahead and use that. There are 2 rooms in the town I work that like the ring, nice and loud at 110 hertz. Or thereabouts, it's that 110 hertz will... you just clean it up, make sure it's nice. Yeah. Each room is different. The hardest room I ever had to work in was when I did stuff at the Country Music Hall of Fame, and the round rotunda, perfectly round room, is bad. Yeah, because all the audio wants to go right into the middle. I've never had the displeasure of a perfectly round room. One time in the Oval Arena, sometimes a 110 in the 2 rooms mentioned can actually sound nice depending on the artist. Yeah, use it to your advantage. If you know it's there and something needs a little extra, use the fundamentals of the room to your advantage. This is a great example of getting things to mix well, not clash, and open up the cleanliness of a mix. Yes. Check it. I will, Blaze. I'll check out the Vital, the free software synth. Yeah, the forward theater was round also. A ton of treatments to help attenuate things. Round rooms are not fun. Ugh. When did you start? And now you guys are going to go on like that. Okay. We're going to do 2 moves here. Listen to everything bypassed except our main filters that are beneath me. I'm going to open up the whole mix, and then I'm going to clean up the mid-range. Cool? Cool. Here we go. So we've cleaned up our mid-range. There's room in the middle now. Can I go in now and start maybe compressing things? Sure, we can absolutely do that. Can I go in and start adding some EQ? Of course you can. But I wanted to concentrate on cleaning the mid-range. What is going on there? Whatever, that doesn't matter. Oh, he was talking about the Midnight Bar. When did you start? Oh, they started the Midnight Bar a couple weeks ago. Not that long ago at all. So let's go back into our mid-range and see if there's anything going on. Because remember, we have our 2 vocals. Maybe we'll go later in the song. So some things, I just kind of very quickly did like my vocals, my guitars, and my bass. I didn't do the drums or anything to put all of our EQs into bypass. Listening, it cleans it up. It almost makes it sound dull, but you have to think in the context. There's nothing on the top. Of course, it's going to sound dull. Is another good place to concentrate. This has acoustic guitars and electric guitars. Are they clashing with one another? So maybe some of the acoustic can get out of the way of the electric guitars, and at the same time, the percussiveness of the acoustic guitars can come up a little, and we'll just clean up some of the electric guitars. So around here, 750 is where we are right now, is a bit of the percussiveness of the acoustic guitars. So we can go into our electric guitars, which I think I already have, and maybe just pull out a touch more. But then we also want to make sure that we're not like totally killing our electric guitars. So I want to go to my acoustic guitars and surf around for stuff up in the upper mids to make some room for the guitars to kind of like bark through a little. The electric guitars, excuse me. What was that? Uh-oh, super chat from Music to Motion. This is a wonderful example, Tim. Keep up the great work and the education. Music to Motion, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that so much. Let me catch up to you guys real quick, because I'm hunting and I'm not paying attention to you, and I feel like I should. I understand what's happening conceptually, but to my untrained mixing ears... We'll get you there, Thomas, don't worry. I struggle with hearing and the clashing. To me, the changes are subtle, but in context, I do hear it sounding clearer overall. And that's really what we're doing. We're not doing huge moves. I'm doing big boosts now to sweep around and see if there's stuff that's like standing out too much or clashing a bit. And then I'm just going in and I'm scooping enough to get it out of the way of the things that are clashing here. I appreciate you taking care of the chat there, Music to Motion. I saw that stuff was happening, but that's why I have you keeping an eye out for things. So I'm just hunting around in the acoustic guitars again. Can you please explain how the placeholder works so you can turn on and off your EQs, as I am not understanding? Yes, let me get into that. Let's find see if the guitars need any other additional cleanup for the acoustics. And then, yes, Darren, I will show you exactly what's going on. Let's see. Music to Motion. I am grateful not to have to deal with the arena so much. Theaters, festivals, convention centers, bars, and have you ever toured in Tennessee? Blah, blah, blah. Use the best mod, Music to Motion. Okay, let's hunt some acoustic guitars again. That's where we are right now. I feel like there's something down in these like low mids. Yeah, there is. I can clean some of that up for those guitars. So let's go here and do another tiny little scoop. Look, 1 1/4 dB. Oh, that was a really good spot to listen to it. Let's find that chorus again, which I think is about here. There's a little bit of whistly noises going on, like kind of a... it is a little airy sounding. So like me doing a suck in, kind of find that frequency. It's that same thing when we're in bypass and then it clears out. So I'm going to put the EQs in, but listen for that. That's about the whistle we're listening for.
When the voice is calling, don't lose your way. They're in your head, they don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, boy.
So we've cleaned up that whistle, the mid-range. We've put stuff into their spaces, or made space for stuff just with EQ cuts. I think the biggest one we did was maybe like 4 dB, but even that was crazy. Little things here and there. Scoop, 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 scoop. Just get them all out. I'm just chatting up music emotion to him. Don't mind me. I won't, Matthew. His approach was to save this for Discord. My apologies. That's fine. You could do it here. This way everybody else can be a part of it. But you bring up a good point, and I'm going to go like this. If you guys want to be a part of those communications, or the conversations that happen outside of these live streams, link to the Discord should be in the description below. Music to Motion, if it's not active, can you put an active one in there? Remember, you can adjust it so that it's good forever. But yeah, if you guys want to continue the conversation outside of these live streams, join the Discord, help grow the community. Active mix feedback. We're always working with one another there. Original compositions, working with one another. Maybe you need somebody to play bass on your song. Throw that in there. We have lots of great channels going on there. You have your workflow down and do things so fast, you might have to save me time. I might send you a test song to mix and see how it goes. Music in Motion, I am always available for anybody if they want me to mix their songs. There's usually the bot in the chat, which is here. There's a form to fill out, but Music to Motion, you know how to reach out to me. So I didn't forget, Darren, you said you wanted to find out why I'm doing the placeholders. We're going to do that. Let's go back into this thing here, and I'm going to take my main mix thing out. And then we're going to do the same thing again, where I'm going to pull the EQs on all of our stuff in and out and listen to the mid-range. We're in the full mix now, but listen to the mid-range.
When the voice is calling, don't lose your way. They're in your head, they don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, but or part of it. Doesn't feel like coming up tonight. Gotta be sure to leave the lights on. One broken mirror makes misplay. Would you even realize?
We've cleaned it up a lot. Maybe, just maybe, we did too much to the guitars, but now we can go back in and maybe just give the guitars a little volume bump. That might be all it needs. And let's try something subtle. Let's try just bumping the guitars at a bus level, 2 dB.
When the voice is calling, don't lose your way. They're in your head, they don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, but or part of it. Doesn't feel like coming up.
Again, now I feel like maybe the acoustics are a touch loud, so I'll bring those down ever so slightly and just find a nice volume balance for everything.
When the voice is calling, don't lose your way. They're in your head, they don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, but or part of it. Doesn't feel like coming up tonight. Gotta be sure to leave the lights on. One broken mirror makes misplay.
I think that's where we're gonna leave it right now. Uh-oh, we got another super chat coming in from Secret. If you take requests, it'd be uber helpful to see a tutorial referencing single twice. Referencing single twice. One times with Australian Audio Hi-Fi X55, other with their normal phones. I'm wrestling with approaching low ends. Okay, I think I know what you're asking. Just referencing single twice. I think we can figure something out for that, but I appreciate the super chat. That really means a lot. Music to Motion dropped a link for the Discord in there, so I appreciate you doing that. Catching up with you guys real quick. You were chatting and doing your thing. The small millisecond timing things on the drums seem to bother me a little bit. Yes, absolutely. Oh, you have no idea how much it's bothering me. Is that just me, or are the drums just not quite in the pocket? Especially the kick. The kick is so out. High 5 exit to 5 has difficult lows. I'm going to have to do some research on that, Secret. But I will definitely follow up. Absolutely. I take requests. Research needs to happen whenever I take requests. But that's another thing that's a part of the Discord is there's a channel of video suggestions. So if you're looking for either produced video or a live stream, you can join the Discord and say like, hey, it'd be really cool if you did this. I know, don't get me wrong. I appreciate the super chat to really highlight it. But that's another thing you guys can do is like, oh, a video about drum editing. That would be great. I'm going to make it because this song needs it, but it's a great example. And then Music to Motion went ahead and dropped the Midnight Bar, which it's a get together over Zoom that happens after the show. He put a link in the chat, so go ahead and if you guys are curious and want to talk to some of the people that are here and some others that may not be here right now, you can go ahead and join that. Look at that, Secret, part of the Discord. See, I got the notification. Okay, Darren, I hope you're still here. I believe you are. He was asking before why I was using placeholders. Don't mind these clips. Why I was using placeholders on these things. So I have Mix Tool above all of my Pro EQs on all of the channels that we've been messing around with today, right? The reason I am doing this is watch what happens if I take Mix Tool out on my bass guitar, and I want to just listen to what's going on with these channels, right? This is what I put the placeholder in, is because if you select your channels like this, you make a temporary group and you bypass a plugin on these channels because they're linked, it will bypass the position of the plugin. So my bass bus only has one plugin. If I bypass it, watch what happens on the overhead tracks and the snare track here. So if I bypass, it is turned off Mix Tool on both of my overheads, and it turned off Trigger, which is adding my snare sample to my snare track. And that's not what I want to do. I want to compare the EQs on and off. So I have to put this one back on, and that is why I have put a placeholder of Mix Tool, which is doing nothing. It's on. That is all it's doing. I don't have any of these buttons checked. So now, with the same scenario, all of these things, all of my Pro EQs are in the second plugin position. And when I bypass one in this temporary group, it bypasses all of them. Here's the one on the bass, the room and the overheads, and the snare. That is why I've been putting these placeholder in. And really it's because of the snare. If I didn't have the excuse me, if I didn't have Trigger in here, adding the samples in at a blend, then I would just throw them in the first position. But when you're in your mix sessions and you're doing stuff, if you want to bypass things in and out, that's what you need to do. They need to be in the same position. Darren, okay, thanks. I didn't see you group the tracks. Now I get it. That's exactly what we're doing. It'll bypass things in the position. So if I go back to the first position here, it's bypassing all of my mix tools plus Trigger, which I wanted to avoid that. So that's what's going on over there. Yeah, see, Music to Motion had this problem. If you grab, all of your channels, all of these things, because we've been putting our placeholders in, I can turn Pro EQ on and off. That's not a problem. But if I turn off Mix Tool on any of them, I've now turned off my samples, which, believe me, that's another thing with this song, is this kick drum lacks. So I had to sample the kick drum, and I did like a full replace on this one. You want to hear this real quick? Here's the kick drum. I needed to put a sample in there. There was nothing to that cymbals except for nothing to that kick drum except for cymbal bleed and boxiness. They kind of scooped all of the good stuff out and left all the good stuff out and left all the stuff I don't want in. So I just went ahead and replaced it, especially for this demo that we're doing today. Let's see. Yeah, you can, when we're doing this exercise, you can hear your compression as well. Let's put this back in, bring them back in. Ready? Filtered sounds. You can hear, again, this is a subtle thing. Everything we're doing today are subtle moves, but just this tiny amount of compression, and we're getting like maybe 1 dB of compression here. You can still hear your compression that you're doing in a filtered sound like this. So it's still a good practice to do, and it's a good learning experience for anything you're trying to do, whether it be just dialing in a little bit of compression here and there, or any other kinds of sounds. You know, if we wanted to go to our guitars and do a little bit of compression on our guitars, let's turn this down, I have no idea what it's going to do. Filled those guitars out nicely, and even in our filtered sounds, we can hear that happening. Yeah, and it helps the full mix too. It just brings those guitars a little bit out. They need, you know, honestly, I'll tell you, those guitars need to kind of bark quite a bit more. But at this point, now that we've cleaned our mid-range, we can go in and start adding things in. We did a little bit of compression here. We can do some more stuff on our vocals to keep those in line. And you know what? Let's just kind of bring that over, because why not? Yeah, a little bit more vocal compression. Don't get me wrong, I have plenty of compression going on. Just watch this thing. But these were very dynamic vocals coming in. I have another compressor following it up too. But I'm actually not against what I did with the vocals on the bus to squeeze it just a little bit more. Putting them right into their place. Let's catch up with you guys real quick. My typing sucks. My keyboard is not matching my fingers. That's fine. Catching up, cardboard box. Yes, Smash Studios, but that's exactly what we're doing. Because ready? Here you go. I don't know what I did there.
When the voice is calling, don't lose your way. Neither in your head, they don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, world, or pardon me. Does it feel like coming home tonight? Got me sure to leave the lights on.
Let's see. Richardson Biney? Please, do you always gain stage before mix? And what if you have samples that is already processed hitting 0 dB? What do? Turn them down. Especially for samples that are already hitting 0 dB, that's way too hot. Turn them down, put their peaks at like -3 or something like that. Give yourself the headroom. Remember, your mix bus is the sum of all the other parts. So gain staging is kind of weird, in my opinion. We're in a digital realm, in a digital world. If something's too loud, turn it down. If it's clipping when you record it, or its ultimate final output, that's bad. Anything in between then, just turn some things down to get them all in the same relative area. That's my opinion. If I was doing more hybrid stuff, I would probably gain stage a little bit more. I'm sorry for the lights flicking on and off. The auto white balance in this thing is going crazy, or auto brightness, whatever. If I was doing more hybrid stuff, I would just make sure that my gain staging going to my outboard stuff was still, would make sure that was consistent. For anything in the box, for me, it doesn't matter that much. Every time that ride bell hits after the fill, I go back to high school in my mind. Kind of quintessential of those times. I hear you. I try to do gain staging mostly when working with audio, but with VSTs, you can control the volume with the VST itself. Same thing in here. I could open up the input controls, which we're not looking at right now, and usually I have them on, but I could open up the input controls and say, I need to bring this vocal up or down. Vocals are dynamic to begin with, but like maybe this bass guitar, look at this DI, is kind of low. So I could always I could kind of raise it here, or I can raise the clip itself, which it's starting to dance around, but undo. And you can do all this stuff inside the box. I also started audio tracks. I tend to start audio tracks recorded at -6 or -12, depending on how hot they were recorded. Yeah. Clip gain also never hurt anybody. Exactly. We're in the digital world. But you have to watch it and set the level so that the peak is at -6 or so, but everything by ear. Also remember that a lot of mastering engineers start everything in the digital world as well. Some of them may not even go out of the box. So if your mix is a little hot and they want some more headroom to do some stuff, they can clip gain it down too. They have that ability. They can do, they do it anyway. They send them a mix that has its peak at -6. They might say, I need a little bit more. And they might immediately jack it up to -3 and then do their stuff. It's the digital world. We can turn things up and down. Just make sure you're not like killing stuff, clipping it, cutting things off in a gross way. Don't do any of that. In the box, go to town. I guess that you only have one hand available for typing. The other is holding a beer. Thanks for the useful info. I really needed that clarification. You're welcome, Richardson. I'm glad Music to Motion and myself, I hope, cleared that up for you. Yeah, people are crazy. I agree. Let's see. Thanks, Music to Motion and Tim. You're very welcome, Richardson. Secret. So this will probably affect how noob I am. Sure. But can Pro EQ2 from the Presonus tools be used in other DAWs like Cubase, or is it not a regular VST like locked in the Studio One? It's a Studio One native plugin. So the only plugins that you can use in other DAWs right now are Ampire and something else. Presonus hub. I have to look at the hub because that's where you get them, is from the Presonus hub. So I'm opening up my hub right now. It's really tiny next to my head over here. So it's the Ampere stuff and the fat channel. That's what it is. The fat channel is available to use in other DAWs, and Ampere. Stuff like Pro EQ and multi-band dynamics and stuff like that you cannot use in other DAWs. But these are the stock ones for Studio One, and Cubase or those other ones have their own stock plugins, so you can use those ones. Darren, I have read that plugins are designed to operate within a certain range. So if you turn stuff down, the plugin doesn't work as intended. So when you're working in a hybrid kind of thing, or you're modeling plugins, in the analog world, there is a level that you should be hitting things at. And when you're converting from digital to analog and trying to model these things, yes, you need that baseline. So it's like, okay, well, that's why everybody says that they use VU meters, and they say minus 18 dB full scale is 0 dB on a VU meter. That's your calibration point. So when you're feeding that minus 18 tone, or 1K, into a channel strip, a compressor, an EQ, something that lives in the actual world, that's its baseline. But think about how they did stuff in like the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s to get that saturation, to get fatness, to get new sounds. They pushed things to the limit. So in the digital world, especially when the plugins, like, let the people who are making the plugins do all the calculations and stuff. Is there a range? Sure. I mean, there's a bunch of like the Waves plugins. Let me do this real quick, because the one that I can think of that has it, and I'm just going to add a bus real quick, is the CLA Echo Sphere. So these things have like LED indicators showing you where their optimal level is. Where are you? Come over here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of, let's put this to the mix so that you guys can hear it. I'll call this Claw Echo. We'll put our vocals here and we'll solo it. So I'm going to put just a straight send of my vocals into this thing, and let's just solo it as well, because why not? And then watch this LED. It's going to go from like green to yellow to orange to red.
When the voice is calling, don't lose your way. They're in your head, they don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, world. When the voice is lose your way. They're in your head, they don't mean.
So this one gives you an LED indicator of the optimal level. But you can always drive it harder, and that's why it also gives you an input control on the plugin itself. It's telling you, like, I have my send cranked.
When the voice is calling, don't lose your way.
And I'm still only like flicking the yellow. I'm going to turn this down, because watch what happens when we just crank the heck out of this thing.
When the voice is calling, don't lose your way.
We're getting a little bit of red, but we're saturating the plugin now.
When the voice is calling, don't lose your way.
We're saturating the input of the plugin, but we're not saturating the output, and we're not clipping anything, because we're balancing the fader to get our balance back in. So we're distorting the input, yeah, but maybe you want to distort it and get that sound.
When the voice is calling, don't lose your way. They're in your head, they don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, world, or pardon me.
Maybe that's the sound you're going for. In the digital world, you can turn things up and down. Is there an optimal? Yeah, maybe. But you can change it. You can change it to whatever you want it to be. That's why even still, if we kind of like bypass this real quick and let's do this. Virtual tape. Another thing. Virtual tape. Same thing. I have my send killing it right now. But there's an input knob. If I want to saturate the tape, I can.
When the voice is calling, don't lose your way. They're in your head, they don't mean anything.
It's creating a new sound. They model all of this. That minus 18 dB is your baseline, but they do this stuff as well when they're modeling these plugins and creating this stuff. Is how does it saturate? How does it distort? How does it do all of this? So push the limits, because you absolutely can. Actually, let me turn that off. Come back to you guys. Doop, 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 doop. I have to scroll up. Boop, 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 boop. So, Darren, I hope that answers your question. Ray, what's up, bud? What are some tips to reduce background noise when you're recording using a microphone from Presonus? Treat your room. Or honestly, one of the best things, get a bunch of those like cheap packing blankets. You can go to like a U-Haul or a moving supply company near you, or even on Amazon. I think when I was moving a number of years ago now, when I was moving here, I went on Amazon and I got a dozen of them for like $100. I still have them laying around because they're useful for stuff like that. So build yourself a little booth. You don't have to build panels like this, and even still, these panels are pretty cheap to make. Packing blankets are a great start. They're dense, they're thick, couple extra music stands, or make a stand if you can, throw it on top of something, throw it over your head. I have a picture somewhere of me sitting on this couch doing with this microphone or something like it, doing a voiceover audition. I was like, and this room wasn't treated at the time, so I just threw a packing blanket over my head and had everything underneath me and cleaned everything right up. Also, what tip to get better with vocals delays? With your vocal delays, sync it to the song, but you can always throw that off a little bit and maybe modulate it so that it's in and out a little. That's always fun. You can make them dynamic, and so by making a dynamic delay, you put your delay, so you have your vocal, send into your delay, and it does a delay, A. But what you can do is follow it up with a compressor that is going to compress those delays sidechained by your lead vocal. When the lead vocal is going, it's going to reduce the volume of those delays and kind of push them out of the way. But when the lead vocal stops, it blooms open and those delays are allowed to come out and breathe. That's a lot of fun. Then you can also do something like the Echosphere does, and we were just looking at that. Feed your delays into a reverb, either by following it up with a reverb plugin and adjusting with the mix, or making it ascend, however you want to do it. Yeah, but for your microphone, picking up background noise, listen to where you're putting the microphone. If there's lots of noise in that room, try a different room. This might be a whole new topic. There's a lot to it. Yeah, that's the quick and dirty. For example, Music to Motion can hear my HVAC. No, you can't. You can hear my computer fans running. EQing the delay is another great thing to do. Throw an EQ before your delay. Scoop out the lows to cut all the rumble out, and maybe some of the highs to make it a little telephony. That's also a great thing to do. So EQing the delay so it doesn't step on the dry vocal. It can sometimes help. Compressing it so it stays present sometimes too. Sometimes neither of those things. Exactly. These are all great tips, guys. And if you want to continue the conversation, you can join the Discord. Earlier in the chat, Music to Motion dropped a link for that, and I'm going to ask him to do it again, where we can just continue these conversations after these live streams. Schmircumstances. Maybe sidechain the vocal, deduct the delay. Yep, that's another trick. For a cinematic orchestral piece, somewhere on the internet, I read that I shouldn't use a reference track recorded with live players if I'm using all in the box virtual instruments. Any truth there? No. In my opinion, no. Because where do they get these samples from of the VST instruments? You know, if it's one of the good ones, and I use that cautiously, but if it's one of the good ones, it's sampled people playing. So why not reference that? Hans Zimmer, like, yes, he writes things in the box and then brings it to an orchestra to actually play, but he also has a ton of electronic elements in there as well. No, use your references. That's why they're called references, so that you can reference what it would sound like. Thomas, do your thing, man. That was a huge change. Yes, sir. And automate it. So much to chew on. Yeah, there's tons of things you can do, Ray. Always use references. Always. Number one rule. There's no rules. Fast forwarding through some of Music to Motion stuff, because I'm sure he'll tell me later anyway. I think I'm not phrasing my question correctly. I'll hit up the Discord. Thank you, Thomas. Already did. Yeah, I know Music to Motion. How many instances of De-Esser would you recommend on a vocal? As many as it takes. Don't feel, because you can do a few different things. What you can do is get like the really high-end harshness and have one De-Esser just for that stuff. So like the top end of your S's, all that stuff. One De-Esser for like just the super, super top end. And then you could do like another one that's kind of lower down, and it's like your B's and your T's and your, kind of the stuff that's a little bit lower down, and do a little bit off of that one as well. They're listening to different areas, and so you can kind of just squish them down if you want. That's something you could certainly try. I wouldn't go too crazy, because you don't want people to start talking with the F when they're singing, and you could really just take all of the F off, or they'll sound like Sylvester the cat. It's trying to get that Tweety bird. Some people have a few orchestra players and the rest VST. Yeah, that's another thing you could do there, Thomas, is layer your orchestras. Use the BBC Symphonic Orchestra as in conjunction with like East West, in conjunction with the Presonus Symphonic Orchestra. They all have different characteristics and tastes, and there's different players who recorded them when they did the samples. So you can layer those things, and it'll sound like its own new thing. East West, Spitfire, UJam, layer them. I'm new to your channel. Well, welcome, Darren. You've been here for a few live streams though. What is a quick and dirty background Quick and dirty background. When I was in high school, I was in a couple bands. In one of those bands, we rehearsed in the guitar player's basement, and in that basement, they had a recording setup. Actually, with this 002, the Digico 002 that I still have over here, we recorded the first song that we wrote, and I thought it was the coolest thing that you could do it at home. And this was in the early 2000s. I thought it was the coolest thing. So I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to learn this stuff. Went to school, did really good in school. I didn't even do like a 4-year college. I did trade school. I went to SAE, 9 months. I was out of that, went to a studio. In the studio I was working for David Bendith, Dan Corneff, and like those guys. The first album I worked on with them was the Paramore Riot album. I learned so much from those guys and making that album, and that continued to enhance my love of learning audio and like always discovering new things in audio and how to use it. So fast forward, I still do it. I do this for you guys now because I enjoy it. It was I was looking for resources when I started the channel, and there was a few of them out there, not many. And so I was like, okay, there's my niche, there's my opportunity. And so now I'm doing my version of audio tutorials, and there's lots of them out there, but this is my version. And when I'm not doing this stuff, I'm helping other people make records. That's my job. Is I help artists make their awesome songs go from good to great. So that's the real quick and dirty. I think it depends on the artist's budget whether they can have a full orchestration or not. Yeah, that certainly helps. Can you compensate for a great vocal, but they sound like what you just did? Can you compensate for a great vocal, but they sound like what you just did? Bring the clarity back. Are you talking like if it's like really filtered? My advice is to bring the effects down in the libraries if you can. Oh, you guys are talking about that. Music to motion, I think I need a little clarity. You do so much. You do some of the best tutorials I've seen, and I've seen pretty much all of them. I appreciate that, music to motion. Digicode, Digidesign, mouth words are hard, which is really funny because I use Digico boards a fair amount, probably a lot, some would say. And then Digidesign makes the 002, but although they're Avid now, it's Pro Tools. The Pro Tools guys. That's where I got my start, was working with Pro Tools. I did bring the coffee. Did you guys not bring the coffee? This isn't coffee, it's water. It's late. It's almost midnight. It's 11:30. I'm probably wrapping up anyway. So actually, I'm just going to go whoosh and just keep talking to you guys because I think we're pretty much done. That everybody, maybe we'll go back in and we'll listen to the example. Oh, can you compensate for clarity if somebody has, maybe they do have a lisp or anything like that? Can you compensate for clarity? You can. It is a little tricky, but you absolutely can, because what you can do is, there's a few things that you can do, but you can you can make a send for your vocals to another track, and you just filter all of like the low stuff off, and where you want to get like that top end and the clarity, filter all the low stuff off. Do nice boosts, maybe some saturation to kind of bring those harmonics out. So, watch where your cuts are of like the low stuff, but create some saturation. A little bit of distortion can actually bring some of that telephone and the clarity and those kinds of notes and like the presence forward a little bit. It's just a little bit of saturation, a little bit of distortion, not a lot, because also just like EQ moves. You're not going to go ahead and just crank something like 2K, 3K, 4K, something like that, because that's just not going to sound good. But little bits here and there, just kind of compensating for that. If somebody's coming in and they have something real bad, you're not going to get that exact S, but you can kind of fake it a little. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be great, but you can get some stuff in there. A little bit of saturation, a little bit of EQ can go a long way. Catching up with you guys towards the end. Just do what Rob Zombie does. Put a load of effects on it. Just swamp it with effects. You don't need any clarity at all. The clarity is for the birds. Don, hey Don, that's a name I haven't seen. There's some folks on the Studio One forums whining about parallel compression bug. Any knowledge of what I'm talking about? I know there's people whining about it. I haven't experienced it, so I can't really speak to it at the moment. But if it's a bug, you should report it to Presonus so that they can address it. And then they'll put an update out, and then we'll all get it, and there won't be a bug anymore. So, unfortunately, I haven't dealt with it. I haven't messed with it. It hasn't affected me. That's a super chat from Music to Motion. Appreciate that, buddy. I'll get to that in a moment. I just saw the little thing ding, this guy right here, because he pops up when I'm talking to you and that happens. I'm going to hit you up about that. I have someone that needs to have that done, and I honestly don't know how. Yes, absolutely hit me up. If anybody wants to continue the conversation, join the Discord. Link in the description or in the chat that Music to Motion dropped. Discord.gg/. It's constantly changing. Trigger sample replace S's if they have a lisp. Also, if you really want, you could overdub it and just kind of get that presence in there. Just it's always an option. This has been a great show, Tim. Thank you, Iron Weeds. I appreciate you just because of your lisp. Thank you, Mrs. Molson. I appreciate you being here. No, it's a speech impediment. People suffer them, and we shouldn't make fun of them. We should help them and make them feel loved and welcomed, as everyone is. This has been one of the best shows thus far. It's because you're here. All right, this is the video guy brain in me. I keep watching my white balance change when I'm like in and out of the light. Like it makes me warmer, it makes me darker, and I keep watching the light in the background just freak out. I'm sorry, like that. I'm derailing myself. Can you do a short version recap of what you just did? Chappie, you got it, bud. Real quick, this is what we did. But that was another super chat from Don. You're welcome. And Chappie with another super chat, following it right up. I appreciate everybody with these super chats tonight. All right, here's where we were. Ready? This is what we did. I don't care about this thing. Where's my mix bus? On my mix bus, I put Pro EQ, and I have it on right now. So all we did is we filtered out everything below 400 and above 6K, and we're going to go like this, and I'm going to go, actually, you know what? Let's just remove this. Remove. Where is it? Remove. Remove that. We'll leave the compressors in because all of our Pro EQs are in the same spot, so I don't care about that. You can go away. And I just want all of these, and this. Okay, so I bypassed all of my Pro EQs, and I'm going to bypass my compression as well on just these channels. So what we did is we started our mix like this, just filtering everything off. Then we concentrated on what is happening in this area, which is not a lot. So we're concentrating on it. And what we did is with small EQ moves in our master EQ that's down here, you can boost here to listen to what's happening in certain areas and make your cleanups. So you can find something that maybe there's some stuff here. There's lots of vocals here, but there's also like some guitars. So maybe it's better to go to the guitars and scoop some of those out so the vocals can sit a little nicer. So start with this, get into your mid-range, 400, 6K. That's what we did today. Adjust to whatever you want to do. Small moves can make a big difference. Listen to the before and after. This is the before. You're just cleaning up the mid-range. Not a lot, just making room for stuff. Then go back, bypass this EQ down here, and hear the full mix. And now we're going to start with our EQs on all of our stuff in, and we're going to take it out. And you'll hear the clarity in the mid-range just open up a little. And that's what you want. Now what we can do is we can concentrate on our low end, which we haven't done. All we've done is mess with our fader balances. That's where we very first started, our fader balances and our pans. Then we filtered our mix bus, and we started going in and finding problems. What's covering up what? Where is the issue? You know, the cymbals were in front of the vocals. They were washing them out. So we went to the cymbals, the overheads in our room, cleaned them up. Same thing with the guitars, going through, listening to the problems and saying, well, what else is here and how can I clean it up? That's what we did today. Chappie, I hope that helped. I'm going to come back to you guys and talk to you real quick. Why a UA interface with Studio One? Because I like the UA stuff. I wish I did more tracking, and I would probably get one of the bigger ones. But the converters on it are pretty nice for my ears, so that's why I went with the UA things. That was a short recap for Chappie. Trigger it with the screaming sheep. That was a meme, bro. Ah! It was really nice. Could you listen to that? Time for shut up. Smash Studios, great show again. More to add to our toolboxes. Exactly. That's what these shows are for, to kind of like just help educate, help enlighten, be like, oh, that's a cool new little thing. Chappie, appreciate Chappie and Don. Thank you for the super chats. Thomas, great show. Thank you so much. Music Ocean, awesome guys. You should come and join our Midnight Bar. Exactly. If you guys want to continue the conversation tonight, Midnight Bar is happening. You can go ahead and join the Zoom, which Music to Motion has added into the chat. DJ Big Red, he'll have to ask the wife if he can stay up. He's on a curfew. I don't want to get grounded again. You guys don't know how bad it is. Kidding. Give me that ting one more time, Daddy. I feel gross saying that out loud, Matthew. No. All right. Mango showing up at the end. Mid-range is where everything is. Yes, and so again, I said this at the beginning of the show. I'll tell it to you now. This is just tonight's show was inspired by Colt Caparoon and his YouTube channel. And if you haven't checked it out, I recommend doing a YouTube search, Colt Caparoon. Really great stuff from there. But a few weeks ago, he put a video out talking about Jack Joseph Puig, another brilliant mixer who is out there, and saying that I think JJ Peeb was the one who said that the soul of the song is in the mid-range. And so that's why it is so important, going in and cleaning stuff up, little moves here and there. And even when it's filtered like this, you'll hear your compression, you'll hear all of your effects and stuff. And so you'll know if you need to like scoop out some stuff from your effects as well. Because the mid-range is where the clarity is. It's where our ears are tuned the most. So even just little moves like we did today, I think the biggest one was 4 dB. Can do a lot. So it's only weird if you make it weird. I made it weird. I have a tendency of doing that. So you guys watching how Colt built the sound absorption into his room. Yes, I actually filmed a video on how I did it as well, but I never got around to editing it. If I'm really desperate for something one day, I will put it together because I'll have to like record one of these and the voiceover for it. It's pretty easy. Get some stuff from Home Depot, some insulation, throw it into a frame, put it on the wall. There's a lot more to it, but that's the real rough and dirty for it. Darren, great show. Were your high and lows cuts on the Pro EQ Master just on the default slope setting? It's at minus 12 dB per octave. You can do harder, but for something like this where you're just trying to listen to the mid-range, this is fine. That's more than enough. So it's at 12 dB, which I think might be the default, maybe 6s. I can't really remember. If you want to change it for your own testing and learning purposes, by all means, go ahead. But you heard it was filtered. It was filtered enough for what we went through today. So Music in Motion, good to be living in the future. It's about noon here now. Tell us what happens in the future. Music to Motion's got to run. I've got to run. I appreciate all you guys spending some time with me. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you learned a lot today. I hope you take some of this stuff and apply it to your own mixes so that you can clean up your mid-range and take your mixes to the next level. I was supposed to say take your mixes to the next level. Maybe that came across. Thank you all for spending some time with me. I hope you have a great week, a great weekend, and I will see you next week. Have a good one.